Hello there! I love shiny Pokemon. But who doesn't? I have a dream of one day having a shiny Living Dex. I've collected almost every available shiny legendary and mythical Pokemon. But a few are shiny locked, meaning they can't be shiny. So no matter how many times you reset for the Victini, it will never sparkle. On top of that, many mythical Pokemon have only ever been released as non-shiny. That's why I was thrilled when Pokemon Home made 4 mythical Pokemon, plus shiny Molten, obtainable in their shiny forms for the very first time. To get them, you just need to transfer Living Dex into Pokemon Home. Sword and Shield for Keldeo, Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee for Meltan, Legend Arceus for Enamorus, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl for Manaphy, and Scarlet and Violet for Meloetta. I already had a Living Dex in Scarlet and Violet, so Meloetta was an easy grab. And since I've got a shiny Meltan from Pokemon Go, that one isn't high on my list. But at the very top is Keldeo. Back when I was a kid playing Black and White, I remember driving home one clear night, looking up at a shooting star and wishing for a shiny Keldeo. Little did I know that star was Jirachi, and today it's here to help me fulfill that wish, and we take on all of Pokemon Shield using only Jirachi. Jirachi is a Steel Psychic type mythical Pokemon from Gen 3, and going into this challenge, I honestly thought it would be a breeze to go through the main story. After all, we're talking about a mythical Pokemon with amazing typing, a base stat total of 600, a fantastic ability, and cute as heck. Of course, I had to set some rules to make things a little bit more interesting. We're only allowed to use Jirachi in battle. No items in battle, only held items are allowed. The only exception is Pokeballs, since the second goal of this run is to complete a Living Dex. No overleveling. Now, this is a single Pokemon challenge, so avoiding overleveling is almost impossible, even with a powerhouse like Jirachi. But the goal is to keep the level as low as possible. And finally, no Dynamaxing, if we can help it. By the time we reached the second gym, I realized this challenge was nowhere near as easy as I thought. Gym leaders Dynamaxing and gaining massive chunks of extra health turned some of the major fights into real nightmares. But we'll get to that soon. And before we jump in, you may have noticed a shiny Mew hiding earlier. That wasn't an accident. I've hidden more shiny Mews throughout the video. Think of it as a little side quest. Count how many you spot, you're already at 1, and tell me your total in the comments. Good luck! We start our journey in a little cozy house out in the countryside. Honestly, it's a really nice place. I wouldn't mind living like this in real life. The first thing we see on our journey is a fluffball repeatedly rolling into a fence. Does it have the brainworms? Next we follow our friend Hop home, and his big brother the champion Leon gives us the choice of 3 starters. Since we don't plan on using any of them, we pick the water type Sobble, so that Hop ends with the fire type Scorbunny for an extra challenge, since it's super effective against Jirachi. The next day, we notice that the brainworm-infested fluffball is gone. We have to save it, so we head into the misty slumbering world, where the fog gets so thick we can't see even our own nose. And then, we run into a giant pupper. It knocks us out and we wake up with the fluffball safe beside us. Okay, now the real journey begins. After a quick stroll along Route 1, we enter Circhester, where we finally get access to the Pokebox. That means we can bring in our Jirachi. The one we are using comes from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, where you can receive a level 5 Jirachi from an elderly man in Floroma Town. After a quick transfer through Pokemon Home, we now have our lonely nature Jirachi starting out with Confusion and Wish. After a quick visit to the berry shop, we are ready to take on Hop. At this point in the game, there aren't many options when it comes to strategy. So the strategy is basically Confusion, Wish, and Pray. Not exactly big brain plays, but hey, it works. With Hop out of the way, it's time to head to the wild area and Motostoke. I still remember the first time I set foot in the wild area. So many Pokemon, so many directions to go, and about 10 different ways to immediately get wrecked by something way too high of a level. Good times. After reaching Motostoke, the first order of business is of course a new look. And once sorted, we're ready for the gym challenge opening ceremony. Holy moly, that's a welcome to remember. Next up, Turffield Gym. To get there, we'll need to make our way through Route 3, Galar Mine and Route 4 before finally arriving in Turffield. But on our way out of Motostoke, Hop blocks our path and demands another battle, and honestly I can't say no to give him one more ass whooping. Thanks to him not using Ember with Scorbunny, we sent him packing 3 levels down on him, using the exact same strategy as last time. We then beat up some kids on Route 3, don't worry, they asked for it, and head into Galar Mine. Inside, we run into some weirdo who somehow looks like both a young boy with a strict skincare routine and an old lady trying to dress like a teenager. He challenges us to a battle. Since Confusion isn't very effective against his team of psychic types, we spam Swift and heal with Wish when needed. It takes a little time, but Jirachi comes out on top in the end. Then on Route 4, we got run over by a fluffball. Luckily, this tall, handsome and incredibly strong trainer brushes it off like it's nothing. And to be fair, the fluffball is, fluffy, so honestly it felt more like being run over by a pillow. It's gym time. First we need to hurt 20 fluffballs like we're Galar's discount sheepdog. Once that's done, we can finally take on the grass type specialist, Milo. He leads with Gossifleur, which only knows resisted grass and normal types attack. A few confusions are enough to take it down, and by setting up a wish right before it faints, Jirachi is back at full health when Elder Goss hits the field. Elder Goss also only knows resisted grass and normal type moves, but it comes with a really high special defense stat. The fight basically felt like two armored knights whacking each other with pool noodles. Still, thanks to Wish keeping us healthy, Jirachi slowly whittles it down and we walk away with the grass badge. On Route 5 we run into Team Yell trying to steal some poor guy's bike. Not on our watch. The first grunt uses Zigzagoon and Thief, both dark types, so Confusion won't work. A few Swifts, okay, a lot of Swifts later, they eventually go down. Then the second grunt steps up, and this is where things go wrong. He sends out Sableye, a dark ghost type Pokemon. Dark typing makes it immune to Confusion, ghost type makes it immune to Swift. Which means, yeah, we lost. Our first death. To fix this, we need a move that isn't psychic or normal type. So after running around the wild area farming watts from raid dens, we buy the TF Shadow Ball from a watt trader. With Shadow Ball in the arsenal, Sableye goes down in 3 hits. Team Yell is sent packing and we are rewarded with a bike. But just a few meters later, Hop shows up and challenges us. So he just watched us stop a robbery and didn't even help. What a friend. Luckily his team is nothing to write home about and we beat him easily. Our journey takes us to Hullbury and the Hullbury gym. After a quick run through the water maze, we finally reach the end and are able to challenge the water type specialist, Nessa, one of the most beloved gym leaders in Galar. Beloved for many reasons. Even though I don't think we're ready to beat her with our current setup, we give it a go at level 21. She leads with Goldeen, which goes down to 2 Shadow Balls. Next is our Cuda, who also falls 2 Shadow Balls, while we heal a little with our Shell Ball. That brings us up to level 22. Finally, her ace Dreadnought. Nessa Dynamaxes, and 2 super effective Max Darkness later, we're knocked out. We try again at level 22, this time with leftovers instead of Shell Ball and with Aura Sphere in the arsenal. Goldeen and Arcuda are easy again, and with the wish the turn before Arcuda faints, we go into Dreadnought at full health. But Aura Sphere does surprisingly little damage, and again we fall to 2 Max Darkness. Same story at the level cap of 24. I know this fight is doable with the right setup and a bit of luck, so we try again. And again. And again. Until this run, Goldeen and Arcuda are easy and the XP pushes us to level 25. Dreadnought Dynamaxes as usual, we land a critical Aura Sphere, dropping it into yellow. We tank a Max Darkness, heal back with our Citrus Berry and go for another Aura Sphere. But Dreadnought hangs on with just a sliver of HP. Nessa uses Max Geyser, setting up the rain. Unlucky for us, the rain activates Swift Swim, meaning Dreadnought outspeeds and finishes us with the Max Darkness. Brutal. The next 2 tries, same result. But finally we get the run. Goldeen falls despite way too many Sandhand butt misses. Arcuda goes down in 1 hit, then Dreadnought comes out. 1 Aura Sphere does about 40%. Dreadnought hits back with Max Darkness, brings us below 50% and activate our Citrus Berry. Another Aura Sphere pushes Dreadnought deep into the red. This time, Nessa doesn't use Max Geyser, it's another Max Darkness. And thanks to the healing, we survive. Without the rain, no Swift Swim, means we outspeed. 1 last Aura Sphere, and finally Dreadnought falls. After 2 hours of resetting and trying different strategies, we claim the water badge. Sure, it would have been easier to just farm for quad effective energy ball in the wild area, but my stubborn ass would rather reset for 2 hours. Doesn't matter, the badge is ours and we can finally move on. Next up is Galar Mine number 2. Really? They couldn't think of a better name. Even Galar Mine East and West would have been better. Anyway, we enter, the pink grandma is waiting for us and challenges us to a battle. But thanks to Shadow Ball, it's an easy sweep. We OHKO every Pokemon he has. On our way out the mine, we run into 2 fans who wants to battle a champion endorsed gym challenger. and I can't say no to that. So Hub and I team up against them. And speak of fans, if you're enjoying this video, consider liking and subscribing. Since Team Yellow mainly uses dark types, Aura Sphere cleans up pretty easily, while Hub's Fluffball just looks cute. The mine takes us back to Motostoke, where the third gym is waiting, and this one is going to be tough. Kobu specializes in fire types, and all 3 of his Pokemon are fully evolved. We're weak to fire, and we can't learn any moves that hit fire super effectively. So yeah, not looking great. Kobu leads with Ninetales, who almost always opens with Will-O-Wisp. To deal with that, we hold a Rawsberry. Once Ninetales falls, Arcanine comes out, intimidates us, and also loves using Will-O-Wisp, which means we need some luck to even reach Center Scorch without being burned. Here's the plan. Jirachi's ability Serene Grace doubles the chance of a secondary effect. Zen Headbutt normally has a 20% flinch chance. With Serene Grace, that's 40%. So we need either Ninetales or Arcanine to flinch right away to get through clean. Then against Center Scorch, we switch to Body Slam. It has a 30% chance to paralyze, boosted to 60% with Serene Grace. Since Dynamaxed Pokemon are immune to flinching, paralysis is our best shot. And on top of that, we also need a 40% special defense drop with Shadow Ball to stand a chance. And all this is at level 38. That's already 11 levels over the level cap. So after way too many failed attempts, and not wanting to get even more overleveled, we decide it's time to break the no Dynamax rule. At level 34, we give it another go. Kobu leads with Ninetales. We use Zen Headbutt, no flinch. But Ninetale misses Will-O-Wisp. Huge relief. Another Zen Headbutt takes it down. Arcanine comes out, intimidates us, and we Dynamax. Max Knuckle gets our attack back to neutral. Arcanine goes for Agility instead of Will-O-Wisp, but now it outspeeds and burns us anyway. Thankfully, our Rawsberry cures the burn. We then take it down with Max Mindstorm, which also sets up Psychic Terrain, boosting our Psychic type moves by 50%. Finally, Center Scorch comes out and Gigantamaxes. Max Mindstorm brings it deep into the red. It hits back with a G-Max Centinferno for decent damage. Our Dynamax runs out and one last Zen Headbutt seals the deal. We win the fight and finally claim the Fire Badge. From there, we dash through the wild area and make our way into Hammerlocke. We get some story about swords and shields or something. Honestly, I wasn't really listening. Once we're released, we head out onto Route 6. But right at the gate, Team Yells is blocking the road because they don't want anyone disturbing a sleepy Silicobra. Instead of just letting us sneak by quietly, they challenge us to a loud battle. We deal with them easily, but all the noise wakes up the Silicobra anyways, and it runs off. Nice work, guys. Not long after, we arrive in Stoneside, where Hub is waiting, of course, and immediately challenges us to a battle. And just like Team Yell, he goes down pretty easily. In Pokemon Shield, the 4th gym leader is Alistair, the Ghost type specialist. We're weak to his Ghost types, but we also have a super effective Shadow Ball and Stab's super effective Zen Headbutt for his ace Gengar. This gym wasn't quite as brutal as Kobu, but it was still tough. I could give a long explanation of every failed attempt and strategy. Tweak we tried, but in the interest of everyone's time, let's just say our death count is sitting at 49 and skip to the good part. At level 38, this is the one where we finally get the W. We start by OHKOing Yamask with a Shadow Ball. Out comes Cursula, this one's dangerous. If we don't get a flinch with Zen Headbutt, it hits us with Curse and dooms the run. Luckily, we land the flinch and finishes it off with Shadow Ball. Next is Mimikyu, which is always a pain thanks to its disguise ability. It loves luring our attack with Baby Doll Eyes, boosting itself with Hone Claws, and then picking us off with Priority Shadow Sneak. But this time it doesn't set up too much and it doesn't lower our attack, so we manage to take it down. Thanks to a wish from the turn before, we go into Gengar almost at full health. Alistair's ace hits the field and Gigantamaxes. We miss our first Zen Headbutt and Gengar punishes us with a Max Darkness. Thankfully, not G-Max Terra. The second Zen Headbutt connects, dropping it almost into the red. Another Max Darkness takes us down into the yellow, but one last super effective Shadow Ball finishes it. We finally take the win and earn the Ghost Badge. In Stoneside, a group of kindergarten kids have made a giant painting on the side of a cliff. But the pink grandma doesn't like it, so he decides to destroy it. Not on our watch. Just like last time, a few Shadow Balls and he's defeated. Unfortunately, he still smashes the beautiful painting anyway. And behind it, some old statues of a sword and a shield, I think. Honestly, I wasn't really listening. Now we enter one of my favorite places in all of Pokemon, the Glimwood Tangle and Ballonlea. There's something so cozy and magical about it. The towering trees, the dim lighting, and the glowing mushrooms that makes it feel like stepping into a fairy tale. Ballonlea is of course home to the grandma of all grandmas, Opal, the fairy type specialist. A fitting timing for such a magical place. This gym has a special gimmick that actually makes things a bit easier. During the battle, Grandma asks us questions, and if we answer correctly, we get a stat boost. And as the smart, handsome and observant trainer I am, I obviously got them all right. Opal leads with Galarian Weezing, which we almost one-shot with Sand Headbutt, and we even get the flinch. The first question is, do you know my nickname? The answer is, of course, the Wizard, which nets us a double speed boost. One more Shadow Ball finishes Weezing off. Next is Mawile, which lowers our attack with Intimidate. One Shadow Ball takes it below half, and Mawile's super effective Crunch barely scratches us. An Aura Sphere finishes it off, and out comes Togekiss. The second question, what is my favorite color? And you'd think it's pink, fairy types and all. But we people know the correct answer is purple. That earns us a double boost in both defense and special defense. Togekiss is bulky, but after 2 Shadow Balls and 2 Sand Headbutts, it finally goes down. Last is Opal Ace, Alcremie. Suddenly I'm in the mood for something sweet. The final question, how old am I? Looking at her, many would guess 88. But she's actually 16, she's just trying to speedrun life. That nets us a double boost to attack and special attack. Alcremie Gigantamaxes, but thanks to all the boosts, it's a piece of cake to take it down with 3 Sand Headbutts. We win the battle and claim the fairy badge. Back in Hammerlocke, we run into young Grandma, but old Grandma has been following us. She sees him and she just can't help herself. And she abducts him. On Route 7, Hub jumps us for another battle. We actually take a death here, thanks to him running 2 fire types. But on the second try, his Cinderace decides to use agility twice instead of, attacking. That little brain fart lets us win the fight. After that, we head through Route 8 and finally arrive in Circhester. To prepare for the 6th gym, we took down a Bronzong in a raid den, which gave us the TR for Iron Head. Then we make our way through the Pitfall Maze, which I again definitely don't have the answer for. The 6th gym in Shield is home to the Ice-type specialist Melanie, or as the internet lovingly calls her, Mummy. With a little bit of luck, I think we can beat Mummy Melanie without leveling any further. We first try an attempt without Iron Head, just to see if we can do it, and definitely not because I forgot to teach it, but we end up falling to G-Max Lapras. We try again, this time with Iron Head. We get so close, literally just one flinch away from taking Lapras down. The 3rd time's the charm. She leaves with Frostmoth. Wait, Frostmoth? I've always called it Frostmoth. I thought it was a play on Frost and Moth. I mean, it still is, but Frostmoth just sounds weird to me. Frostmoth makes more sense, right? Anyway, super effective Iron Head and it's gone. Next is Galarian Darmanitan, who also gets OHKO'd by Iron Head. 3rd is Ice Cube. We go for Iron Head again, but that triggers its ability Ice Face, which negates the first physical hit and swaps its stats from tanky and slow to speedy. Ice Cube punishes us with Ice Wind, lowering our speed. Then outspeeds and sets up Hail, which restores its Ice Face, but 2 more Iron Heads finishes it off. Finally, it's Melanie's ace Lapras. She Gigantamaxes, we start with Body Slam and gets the paralysis. Lapras fires off 2 Max Geysers while we keep spamming Iron Head. On the 3rd turn, it luckily gets fully paralyzed and Gigantamax runs out. Thank Arceus it didn't use G-Max Resonance to set up Aurora Veil. 2 more Iron Heads and Lapras goes down. We defeat Mummy Melanie and earns ourselves the Ice Badge. Once again, the professor starts rambling about something with a sword and a shield, and yeah, I totally zone out. Outside, Hub challenges to a battle. I won't bore you with the details, let's just say we win. Down on Route 9, we find Team Yell cheering on a Dreadnought. We whoop their asses and get rewarded with an upgrade to our bike, which now allows us to ride on water. After a chilly little bike ride through the Antarctics, we make it to Spikemuth. Problem is, it's closed off. Thankfully, Mani helps us sneak in through the back after we beat her in a battle, which we do easily. Spikemuth, the home of Pierce, the Dark-type specialist. In this battle, there's no Dynamaxing, so this should be an easy one, right? Right? I'll be honest, I don't even know how to make this part entertaining. We're weak to Dark, and this was like an hour and a half of me getting frustrated, dying to bad luck, and farming TRs. So let's just say the death counter is at 61. And we're at level 52 and skip to the one battle where we finally managed to take down this beanstalk. Pierce leads with Scrafty, which drops our attack with Intimidate, but one quad effective Dazzling Gleam OHKOs it instantly. Next is Malamar. We hit it with Dazzling Gleam for about 2/3 of its HP, and it fires back with a Foul Plate, taking us just under 50%. Leftovers brings us back a little, and a second Dazzling Gleam finishes it off. Then come Pierce's ace, Obstagoon. He opens with Obstruct, which lets us heal a bit more with Leftovers. A quad effective Aura Sphere just barely misses the OHKO, and Obstagoon punishes us with a super effective Throat Chop, but one more Aura Sphere is enough to bring it down. Last is Skuntank, who threatens us with Priority Sucker Punch. That actually works in our favor, because it gives us free turn to set up a Cosmic Power, boosting both defenses. 3 Dazzling Gleams later, Skuntank falls and we claim the Dark Badge. Now we go straight from Spikemuth to Hammerlocke to challenge the 8th gym, Raihan, the so-called Dragon type specialist. But let's be real, only 2 of his 4 Pokemon are actually dragons. He's more of a Sandstorm team specialist. Gigalith sets it up with a Sandstream and Sandaconda sets it up again with Sandpit. It's also a double battle, so we can't enter without a second team member. And since we don't actually want help, we fly back to Route 2 and catches the wet paper towel of Pokemon, Magikarp. So with our wet paper towel by our side, we give it a try at level 54. We open with Dazzling Gleam, hitting both Flygon and Gigalith. Jirachi gets nailed by a super effective crunch from Flygon, with Gigalith predictably crushing Magikarp with body pressure. Shocker, I know. One more Dazzling Gleam finishes off Flygon and Gigalith's body pressure barely scratches us. Sandaconda replaces Flygon and we almost take out Gigalith with a crit Aura Sphere, but then get paralyzed by Glare and hit by yet another body press. Sandaconda's Earth Power stings, but a Dazzling Gleam takes out Gigalith and even crits Sandaconda. Then Duraludon hits the field and Gigantamaxes into a literal skyscraper. Sadly, a Max Knuckle combined with Earth Power takes us out. We try a few different strategies. Body Slam for Para on Duraludon, Icy Wind for Flygon, but after a few more deaths. Nice. We land on this attempt at level 58. 2 Dazzling Gleams knock out Flygon and chip Gigalith. Sandaconda comes in and gets OHKO'd by Energy Ball. Duraludon Gigantamaxes, but 2 Aura Spheres are enough to take it down. Gigalith and Duraludon do respectable damage, but not enough, and one last Energy Ball into Gigalith seals the deal. We win the fight and claim the Dragon Badge. And just like that, all 8 gyms have fallen. From grass to dragon, from knights with pool noodles to wet paper towels. It only took a lot of running headfirst into walls. 69 deaths, nice. And one deeply traumatized Magikarp. Now the path to the Champion Cup is open, and probably filled with even more pain. Wonderful. We then make our way through the confidence-lowering cold of Route 10. And finally reach Windon, the booming metropolis, Galar's biggest city and home to Windon Stadium, where the Champion Cup will take place. Here, we finally gain access to the elemental punches, giving Jirachi a lot more type coverage heading into the tournament. The first match of the tournament, the semi-final. Wait, what? This is a weird tournament setup. We start with the semi-final, which has 2 rounds. Then the finals have 3 rounds, and then the championship match. Yeah, makes total sense. Anyway, our first opponent is Marnie, and as usual, she's not exactly the biggest obstacle on our path. We OHKO'd Liepard with a Drain Punch, then Scrafty, who luckily doesn't have Intimidate, with a quad effective Dazzling Gleam. Toxicroak falls to a quad effective Sand Headbutt, and against Morpeko, we fishes for an attack race with Meteor Mash, getting it on the second try. The boost lets us one-shot her Gigantamax Grimmsnarl with a super effective Meteor Mash. Next up is Hop. He starts off with Dogwood, which we take out with 2 Meteor Mashes, and we even get an attack race. Snorlax is next, and we OHKO it with a Drain Punch. Pincurchin falls to a crit and headbutt, and after 1 Drain Punch and 2 Meteor Mashes, Corviknight goes down as well, giving us 2 more attack boosts. Last but not least is his ace Cinderace, which he Dynamaxes. Sadly, it outspeeds us. 1 Max Flare brings us down to 64 health, and our Drain Punch only does little over half, healing us just enough to survive 1 more Max Flare. Unfortunately, Max Flare sets up Sunlight, boosting fire type moves by 50%. So yeah, 1 more Max Flare and we're toast. We try again, this time just spamming Meteor Mash, getting to Cinderace at full health and plus 5 attack. 1 stab, Sand Headbutt later, and Cinderace goes down instantly, winning us the fight and our ticket to the finals. In the afternoon, we have plans to go to dinner with Hop and Leon, but Leon's late and instead Pierce shows up, saying he saw him heading towards Rose Tower. We decide to go look for him, but Olina, Rose's assistant, cuts us off, saying he's in an important meeting with Chairman Rose. And instead of, letting them have their meeting like normal people, we decide to go interrupt them. Of course, Olina won't let that happen, so she sends us on a wild goose chase to find the key to the tower. When we finally arrive, Rose Tower security tries to stop us, breaking into the building, doing their job, but they don't succeed. We make it to the top where Olina, the final line of defense, challenges us. 1 fire punch for Frostlass, 1 Zen headbutt for Salazzle, 1 Zen headbutt and 1 medium mash for Milotic, same combo for Sereni, and finally 2 Zen headbutts to take down her Gigantamax Garbodor. So, to recap, we beaten up 3 employees to steal their key, broken into a skyscraper, taken out 7 more staff members on the way up, and beaten the assistant of basically the Galar president, all just to overhear the end of a meeting between 2 people who already agreed to meet. Now it's time for the finals, an 8-person single elimination bracket. We're supposed to start off against Nessa, but wait, who's that? Young Grandma, he's back begging for a rematch. And of course, we can't pass up the chance to embarrass him in front of the entire region. He starts off with Mawile, which lowers our attack with Intimidate. We select Meteor Mash and proceed to mash the A button, all the way until his ace Hatterene hits the field. It Gigantamaxes, we mash the A button a little more, and we get the W. Okay, for real this time. Last time we faced Nessa, her Dreadnought was a massive wall we just couldn't break through. This time, she leads with Golisopod. 1 Thunder Punch takes it below half, triggering its emergency exit ability. Barrascuda jumps in, but immediately gets knocked out by an Energy Ball. Golisopod returns and falls to 1 more Thunder Punch. Then another Thunder Punch takes out Seeking, and 1 more finishes off Pelipper. Last is her ace Dreadnought. This time it can G-Max and has the ability Shell Armor instead of Swift Swim. So either she got her hands on an ability capsule and a max soup, or she replaced her old Dreadnought entirely. Maybe the last one got the boot for losing. But this Dreadnought probably is getting the same treatment, because 1 quad effective Energy Ball is all it takes to take it down. Winners the fight and move us on to the second round of the finals. Alistar starts off with Dusknoir, which turns out to be the perfect setup target. We stack 5 Calm Mines, boosting both our special attack and special defense, while Dusknoir just lowers our speed a few times with Rock Tomb and chips in a little damage. With our special attack at +5, it's sweeping time. 1 Shadow Ball Okos Dusknoir, Chandelure, Poltergeist, and even his stupid curse-spamming Cursula. Last is Gengar. He Gigantamaxes and tries his best to take us down with G-Max Terror, but thanks to our +5 special defense, it barely makes a scratch. 1 super effective Shadow Ball later, and he's down. That's the win, and we move on to the third round of the finals. The last opponent we need to beat before we can challenge the champion is Raihan. This time, it's not a double battle, which makes things a lot more manageable in a solo Pokemon run. He still sticks to his weather / kinda dragon theme, but before we get into the fight, let's talk about our level. At this moment, Raihan says is level 55, and we're sitting at a 65. Now, this might have been possible at a lower level if we hadn't needed to overlevel earlier. The best way to do this at a lower level would probably be having a higher IQ than a Slowpoke, which yours truly can't exactly brag about. But hey, I've done my best to avoid optional trainers and minimize XP gains. Even though we're slightly overleveled, it's still a 1 versus all, and the level curve is about to jump a lot anyways. Back to the fight. Torkoal sets up the sun with Drought. We start with a Calm Mind, and Torkoal responds with Yawn, making us drowsy. We use another Calm Mind before getting hit by a Lava Plume and falling asleep. Of course, it takes 3 turns to wake up, during which Torkoal is happily spamming sun-boosted super effective Lava Plumes. When we finally wake up, we set up 1 more Calm Mind and get hit by a Body Press. Before Torkoal can yawn again, we finish it off with Aura Sphere. Turtonator also goes down to an Aura Sphere. Flygon can't handle a Dazzling Gleam, and the same goes for Goodra. Last is his ace, the walking skyscraper himself, the Ralladon. He Gigantamaxes, but even with the extra health from G-Maxing, 1 super effective Aura Sphere takes him down. With the victory over Raihan, only 1 battle remains. The reigning champion, Leon. We step onto the field, ready to take on Leon. But before the battle can start, Chairman Rose appears in the Jumbotron. He decides it's time to bring about the darkest day. His plan can't wait any longer, and suddenly, massive beams of light erupt from stadiums all across Galar. We run for safety. Leon heads to Hammerlocke to confront Rose, and of course, Hop and I decides we're also going to help. So we head back to the slumbering world to find the two legendary doggos. Deep in the forest, the fog grows thicker, just like the first time we came here. The two doggos appear for a moment and then vanishes back into the mist. We press on and reach the secluded glen with an ancient altar-looking thing. The legendary doggos are nowhere to be seen, but lying there are a rusted sword and a rusted shield. Hop picks up the sword and we take the shield. Armed with those, we grab a flying taxi straight to Hammerlocke Stadium to help Leon. We take the elevator down and find Chairman Rose beneath the arena. We have to stop him. He leads with his Cavalier, which we easily use to set up 2 iron defenses and a Calm Mind. 1 quad effective Fire Punch takes it down. Berserker falls to an Aura Sphere, same with Cling Clang, and Ferrothorn burns up to a single Fire Punch. Last is his Ace Copperajah. Ross Gigantamaxes it and Aura Sphere takes it just below half. He uses Max Quake, raising its special defense, so now neither Aura Sphere or Fire Punch can finish the job. We go for Fire Punch to fish for a burn, no luck, but it still brings Copperajah into the red. We tank 1 more Max Quake and 1 final Fire Punch takes down the Copper Elephant. But it's too late. He's already awakened Eternatus. We take the elevator all the way to the top and see Leon throwing a Pokeball, trying to catch Eternatus. It breaks free, of course, and challenges us. And as the stupid gamer I am, I completely forgot to heal Jirachi, so we start the fight at about 2/3 health. We set up a Calm Mind and 1 Psychic takes Eternatus down to a sliver of HP. Another Psychic finishes the job, Eternatus falls, or so I thought. It ascends to the sky and Eternamaxes, becoming the most powerful Pokemon ever seen in the games. Luckily, Hop jumps in to help, but for some reason we can't use any moves. Then Hop takes out his sword and we raise our shield. The 2 legendary doggos hear our call for help and descend with the most badass entrance. They fuse with the rusted weapons and transform into their crown form, joining the fight and restoring our ability to battle. We set up a Calm Mind just to stay alive. Normally in this fight, Zacian and Zamazenta do most of the heavy lifting, while your Pokemon just tanks hits, faints, and then you send out the next one. But we only have Jirachi, so if we faint, it's game over. We barely survive a Max Flare, holding on with the skin of our teeth, and fire back with the Psychic that nearly finishes it. Then, finally Hop gets his moment. His Snorlax lands a high horsepower, finishing off Eternatus once and for all. We throw a Pokeball and this time it stays in. Eternatus is caught, the darkest day is over, and the 2 doggos leap back into the light of the rising sun. The final fight, the one that determines whether we take the crown or watch it slip through our fingers. All the grueling gym battles, the hours spent scrolling through Cerebi and Bulbapedia for solutions, the ups, the downs, the everything in between. It all comes down to this. Who will win? Well, not us. We get absolutely clapped. Twice. By his Charizard. Well, time to get back in the saddle and try again. He leads with Aegislash, which opens with King's Shield, basically an upgraded version of Protect. We start setting up with Calm Mind, raising both our special attack and special defense. 4 more Calm Minds later, Aegislash has done little more than alternate between Shadow Ball and King's Shield. Then 1 super effective Shadow Ball takes it out. Haxorus comes in and falls to a single Psychic. Rhyperior follows and meets the same fate. Next is the 3rd starter, the one neither Hop nor we chose, Rillaboom. And you guessed it, 1 Psychic is all it takes. Then comes Dragapult, the pseudo-legendary of Galar. It outspeeds and hits us with Shadow Ball. We use Wish, tank another Shadow Ball, and answers with a Psychic for the Oko. Wish heals us back to full HP just as Leon's ace Charizard enters the field. He Gigantamaxes and fires off a G-Max Wildfire, dealing about 1/3 of our health. We hit back with a Psychic, bringing him down into the red. The end of the turn, Wildfire damage drops us to half, but leftovers helps us recover a bit. Leon uses a full restore while we set up 1 last Calm Mind. Now we're sitting at +6 special attack. He luckily goes for Max Rockfall, which does pitiful damage. Our Psychic nearly finishes him off, but barely hangs on. G-Max ends and Charizard returns to normal form. He goes for Fire Blast, but Arceus must have been watching over us because it misses. We land 1 final Psychic and Charizard goes down. We shouldn't have won. He used Max Rockfall instead of G-Max Wildfire and we got that blessed Fire Blast miss. But we'll take it. We've beat Pokemon Shield using ONLY Jirachi and a floppy fish. And with that, we're the new champion of Galar. But as the new champion, we can't rest. We've got a job to do. Complete the post game and fill the Pokédex. We leave the house and sorry, what? What were we doing again? Right, post game. So naturally, we do what any champion would do. We break into Hub's house unannounced. Upstairs, we find a note from Leon and a Charmander left behind just for us. Cool gift, a little weird delivery method. After our little home invasion, we head back into the ancient altar deep in the slumbering world. Hub's there waiting for us. He congratulates us on becoming champions and of course asks for one more battle. His team's basically the same as in the semifinals, just with the Cramorant added and slightly better moveset. He opens with his trusty double, which is perfect setup fodder. We take the opportunity to set up 2 iron defenses and 2 calm mines. Then the sweep begins. 1 Aura Sphere takes out double. Cinderace comes in, does meh damage with Pyro Ball and drops to a single Psychic. Snorlax tanks 1 Aura Sphere, hits back with a high horsepower but still falls to the next one. Cramorant, 1 Psychic. Pincurchin, same story. Covenant needs 2 Aura Spheres before it needs to book a trip to Nursejoy.
Hi.
Sonia shows up, congratulates us and announces that she's now the new professor. She invites us to return the Rusted Sword and the Rusted Shield to their rightful place. And of course we agree. It's the least we can do to honor the 2 doggers who literally saved our butts. But just as we're about to leave, 2 absolute bozos with the weirdest haircuts I've ever seen shows up. They introduce themselves as Swordward and Shieldbird, the new kings of Galar, descendants of the first kings and apparently self-proclaimed celebrities. I don't know what they're talking about, I've never heard of them. Then they do what Brits do best. Take whatever they want, they snag the Rusted Sword and Shield. Obviously we can't just let that slide, so Hub and I challenge them to a battle. We get paired with Shieldbird, he leads with Surf Edge and we take the chance to set up 2 iron defenses and a calm mind. 1 Psychic later, Surf Edge goes down. Felix follows, same story. Klinklang, Aura Sphere, gone. Last is Bronzong, who actually manages to tank an Aura Sphere thanks to his high special defense. It sets up a light screen but can't really hit back, so 3 Aura Spheres later and the fight is over. We manage to recover the Rusted Shield, but sadly Hubs takes another L and Swordwood gets away with the Rusted Sword. We visit Sonia in her lab, where she introduces us to a new assistant. She tells us that the 2 weirdos are somehow causing power spots to appear all over the region. If we can track down the power spots, we might be able to find them. She detects one in Turffield, so that's our first stop. When we arrive, we run into Milo, Pierce and Hub, and right in front of us, a wild Serene Dynamaxes out of nowhere. With the 4 of us working together, it's a piece of cake to take it down. We calm the Serene, but then the 2 weirdos show up again to tell us about their master plan, letting Pokemon Dynamax out of control to reveal the true nature of Zacian and Summer Center. Before we can stop them or recover the Rusted Sword, they vanish. Sonia contacts us. Now 2 new power spots have appeared in Hullbury and Motostoke. Hub and Pierce teams up with us to stop them. In Hullbury, we find Nessa struggling against the Dynamax Gyarados. We throw a Reflect off for safety, land 2 Thunder Punches and it goes down. Then we head to Motostoke, where Kobu needs help with a raging Dynamax Torkoal. Again, 1 solid team effort later and the threat's handled. With no more power spots on the map, we return to Sonia's lab. But when we arrive, the 2 weirdos are already there, trying to steal all of the wishing stars. Not on our watch. They challenge Hub and us to a battle and we beat the heck out of them. But then comes the twist. Sonia's new assistant turns out to be a spy. While we were fighting, she gathered all the wishing stars and handed them over to the 2 weirdos. They escape and new power spots start appearing across the region. Stow-Inside, Ballonlea, Circhester and Hammerlocke. When we arrive in Stow-Inside, Alistair greets us with some bad news. There's not 1, but 4 wild Dynamax Pokemon on the loose. We split up and take 1 each. We get paired up with Dusknoir and it's a surprisingly close fight. But in the end, we come out on top. Next is Ballonlea, where we're welcomed by young Grandma himself. He's already handled his Dynamax problem, so instead he challenges us to a battle. And of course we can't pass up another chance to humble him a bit. He leads with Mawile, which lowers our attack with Intimidate, but 2 Fire Punches take it down. Next up is Gardevoir, who gets O-code by a Meteor Mash. Rapidash meets the same fate, and last is his ace Hatterene, who doesn't last long against an Iron Head. No time to rest. Circhester is next, where Mommy Melanie herself greets us. We are paired up with a Frostlass, which honestly worried me a bit, but it turns out 1 Meteor Mash almost O-codes it, and 1 Iron Head later, it's calmed right down. Finally, we head to Hammerlocke, where Rhyhorn lends a hand. We're up against Haxorus, and thanks to its spamming Max Quake, it raises its special defense. It takes a few more Dazzling Gleams than I'd planned, but in the end, it still falls, despite its best efforts. Sonia calls us, even though she's like 10 meters away, to tell us that the 2 weirdos are headed for the energy plant. We meet up with her, but the elevator won't work until her adorable Papa Yamper fixes it with a little sap. We head down and are confronted by none other than Shieldbird. My dear Shieldbird, or should I say, the walking embodiment of misplaced confidence and overconditioned hair. I must say your presence is a most exhausting spectacle, rivaled only by the agony of an oversteeped cup of tea. You strut about proclaiming royal descent, yet conduct yourself with all the grace of a Wooloo on roller skates. Your intellect, sir, is so alarmingly absent, I dare say even a slowpoke would pity you. You wield arrogance as though it were an achievement, and yet it is only outmatched by your utter incompetence. A man so profoundly useless, I'm convinced you could lose a staring contest with a Magikarp. Every time you open your mouth, the queen herself sheds a tear, not of pride, but of second-hand embarrassment. Now, if you would be so kind, allow me to deliver upon you the most thorough educational correction, one conducted through the language of battle and humiliation. Prepare yourself, good sir, for I shall pummel your pride with the precision of a gentleman and the courtesy of a well-aimed meteor mash. Shieldbird's team isn't just a random lineup of mons, it's his royal guard. Surfetch stands as the proud knight, Phalanx forms his disciplined soldiers, Klinklang serve as the tireless fortress engine, and Bronzong the ancient guardian watches over them all as a relic of protection. He leads with Surfetch. We both set up Iron Defense. He somehow survives the Sun Headbutt and goes for another Iron Defense, but the second Sun Headbutt brings the knight down. Phalanx enters next, clinging to life with 1 HP after a Sun Headbutt before striking back with a pitiful close combat. Then the soldiers promptly falls to another hit. Klinklang the fortress engine hits the field but goes down to 2 drain punches. And finally his ancient guardian Bronzong can't handle the heat and gets KO'd by 2 fire punches. Even though we beat that royal pain in the ass, we didn't do it in time. Apparently the grand master plan was to force Pokemon to Dynamax against their will, because nothing says noble bloodline like animal cruelty. They wanted to do the same to Zacian and Summer Center, to prove the heroes of Galar were unworthy and that they were the true kings. Unfortunately, Shieldbird's tantrum bought his brother enough time to actually pull it off. Just as we finish up with Shieldbird, a familiar howl cuts through the air. We rush to the roof and see Zacian in a frenzy. We need to stop it. 2 Iron Heads are all it takes. But in its frenzy, Zacian lashes out at Hop, only for Summer Center to appear and shield him. Zacian flees, but Hop runs after, determined to help. Summer Center turns to us, locking eyes. There's a strange understanding between us, a mutual respect, and a very sensual exchange of glance. I hand over the Rusted Shield and prepare for the ultimate showdown. Before the big fight, I made a small preparation. I grabbed the TM for Thunder Wave to make catching this doggo a little easier. We paralyze it with Thunder Wave, set up 3 Iron Defenses so we don't get flattened, chip away at its health with Aura Sphere and Iron Head, and then just start throwing Pokeballs until one of them pities me enough to work. Why not Ultra Balls, you ask? Because my OCD refuses to let me catch any important Pokemon in anything but a regular Pokeball. Call me basic, but honestly I think it's the best one. And after way more throws than probability would allow, statistically we should have caught 3 Summer Centers by now. But finally, we catch it. With our new doggo by our side, the 2 weirdos finally recognize the error of their ways and ask Pierce to hand them over to the authorities. Holy moly, they actually have self-awareness. Hop then calls, asking for help with the other doggo. And even our doggo wants to help. We head back to the heart of the slumbering world and find Hop at the altar with Zacian. Somehow, not only has Hop managed to calm it down, but he's convinced the sword doggo that he's worthy of catching it. And with just 1 single Pokeball, nothing fancy, nothing special, he catches it in 1 throw. Lucky son of a Kangaskhan Khan. Now that we both have our legendary doggos, Hop challenges us to 1 final battle, right here, where our journey first began, and of course it would be an honor. He leads with his trusty Double. We sets up 2 Iron Defenses while it does 0 damage with Double Edge, only hurting itself with recoil. A Meteor Mash takes Double deep into the yellow and gives us an attack boost. 1 more and it's down. Cinderace comes out, lands a solid Power Ball, but we fire back with a massive Stab Send Headbutt. Hop heals with a full restore, but a Meteor Mash takes almost half of its health and gets us another attack boost. We tank another Power Ball and 1 more Meteor Mash takes Cinderace right back where it belongs. On the floor. Snorlax, 2 Meteor Mashes and 2 more attack boosts. Damn. Pincurchin falls to Send Headbutt and Corviknight falls to a Fire Punch. And finally, the legendary Sword Doggo himself, Zacian. Probably the best dual typing in the game. Ridiculous stats and an ability that boosts its already insane attack stat. But we're sitting at +4 attack. 1 single super effective Fire Punch and the hero of Galar hits the ground. A little anticlimactic, but we'll take it. The battle helps Hop come to a realization. Rather than trying to become champion, he wants to help people and Pokemon by becoming a professor. We shake hands, acknowledging that we'll always be rivals, before Sonia offers him a position as her assistant, which he gladly accepts. And with that, we've completed the post-game. Only one goal remains: to catch all 400 Pokemon in the Galar Pokédex. Operation Living Dex has begun. 400 Pokemon to catch, one mildly competent trainer, one very tight Jirachi. During our playthrough, I used a few Pokemon in the party just to soak up some XP, to keep Jirachi from overleveling too much. Which means technically we already have a small head start on the Living Dex. Next step, liquidate everything. We sell off all our valuables and stock up on an absolute irresponsible amount of quick balls and ultra balls. That's all we need. Before we start, we make a quick trip to Circhester. Inside the hotel, we track down the game director, who kindly gives us the catching charm, making our mission to catch them all just a tiny bit less painful. The plan is simple: start on Route 1 and work our way through every route, catching all the easy available Pokemon, then move on to the wild area and finally wrap things up with breeding, trades and transferring version exclusive from a sort save file. We start on Route 1, catching every bug, bird and critter we can get our hands on. And of course, a Wooloo, nature's fluffball, a truly simple creature. It rolls, it eats and rolls again. Its fleece is such an effective cushion that could fall off a cliff and stand right back up at the bottom, unharmed. Route 2 brings more of the same, and by Route 3 we're deep into Pokeball spam territory, including Thrubbish, the living embodiment of human pollution. Its existence serves as a grim reminder that if you throw enough garbage together, it becomes sentient and angry. Galar goes smoothly, and round 4 goes fantastic, even landing the 1% poster child. In Turffield we snag the special overworld Crowdon and head straight to Route 5, where we spend way too long trying to catch 3 10% ink grass encounters Applins. We'll need them later. And of course, we pick up the gift Toxel. Everyone's here's like, train harder, battle stronger. I'm just trying not to cry before noon. Galar Mine number 2 gives us another big chunk of the dex. In the muddy riverbeds of Galar lies one of nature's most deceptive creatures, the Galarian Stunfisk. Perfectly camouflaged, it waits motionless for the unsuspecting to step a little too close. And then it snaps. Scientists believe this behavior evolved from centuries of being used as a welcome mat by careless trainers. In the Motostoke outskirts, we grab a few more additions, including the 5% Salandit. Sadly, a male one. Then I remember I completely forgot to start with the Slumbering Wild, so we take a quick detour back into the mist and catch everything lurking in the fog. I'm basically an Uber driver. Do I get paid? No. Do I get respect? Also no. I'm sick of it. Orbeetle. Its brain is so massive it can read human thoughts, which it immediately regrets. We then speedrun Route 6 and the Glimwood Tangle. Around the time we're done with the Tangle, we hit 100 Pokemon caught, but I forgot to record it. On Route 7, we catch a dude that doesn't exactly get along in the office. I put my name on my lunchbox, but someone keeps eating it! 1, 2, 3... And they say I have anger issues. I don't have anger issues! I just want my goddamn food, Karen! Yeah, I took my Pegger's food. Listen, if you leave berries unattended, they're my berries now. HR call it food aggression. I call it meal prep. Route 8's main area clocks in a solid batch of new mons, and the freezing Steamdrift Way fills our box with a handful of ice-cold faces. A few creatures in Galar are as tragic as the Vanillite, adored by children, hunted by adults, and utterly unaware that it looks exactly like dessert. On Route 9, we net a bunch of water types, and by Route 10, our box is overflowing with frosty Pokemon. Now it's time for a quick sweep through the wild area before we go through the Pokédex systematically, but we've almost run out of balls. So we farm a ton of watts using the good old den date skip method. Find a watt trader selling luxury balls and buy every single one. We've bought 500 luxury balls and sell them for 750k. That gives us plenty of capital to fund our Pokeball addiction. Beware the strong-arm Pokemon. Do not be fooled by its cuddly appearance. It hugs and then it kills. Unintentionally, of course, but beware when it's near. After about an hour and a half of catching everything that moves, we hit the halfway mark. 200 Pokemon registered, but no time to celebrate. We go straight back to throwing them balls. Now that we've caught all the easily available Pokemon, it's time to get systematic. We're missing about 150, and if I can help it, I'd like to catch as many as possible and evolve as few as possible. A lot of Pokemon are available in the wild if the weather cooperates. So we start from the top of the decks, skip the ones that need breeding or are version exclusive, and change the date until the right weather shows up. People think I'm useless, but one day when I evolve, I remember every single person who threw me back in the water. Luckily, most trait evolution also spawn in the wild, which is great because even with link codes, trading is still a tremendous hassle. Next, we head to the Battle Cafe, where we have to fight a barista for the chance to get a sweet, the item needed to evolve Milcery. We give the living blob of cream its sugar fix, spin around like maniacs, and boom, it evolves.
People online keep saying I'm the most popular evolution. I'd like to clarify, it's because I'm versatile in battle, right?
No, I think it's because... Disclaimer, we had to cut the rest of the interview for legal reasons. We then hit the 300 mon mark, and I start questioning my life choices. If anyone asks, yes, I'm okay. Here, where oceans once covered the land, drifted the Galarian Cursula, the spirit of coral long dead, now clinging to existence through sheer emotional damage. Notice how it doesn't move, doesn't hunt, and barely reacts. A true master of the "I'm fine" aesthetic. Then we have some weird evolution methods. Galarian Yamask has to take 49 plus damage from one hit, survive, and then walk under a specific stone arc in the Dusty Bowl. Do that, and boom, Runerigus. And then the fossils. I actually love the lore behind the Galarian fossils. There are 4 different fossils you can mix and match. A direct nod to the early days of British paleontology, when people found dinosaur bones and just glued whatever looked cool together. After digging up about 20,000 watts worth of fossils, we're missing only one fossilized dino. But honestly, I don't feel like farming more watts, so we'll just transfer that one later. Finally, we catch the last few Pokemon we need that don't require training, transferring, or breeding. We're still missing a few Pokemon technically obtainable in Shield, but they're 1% encounters, and I simply don't have the mental fortitude or the therapy budget to deal with that, especially when I already have them sitting comfortably in my Sword save file. We jump over to Sword, grab the version exclusive we need, and transfer them over through Pokemon Home. Now only a few remain, some that need breeding and 2 trait evolution that don't spawn in the wild area and weren't in Sword or Home. Aromatisse and Rhyperior, both can appear in specific raid dens. For Aromatisse we need a purple beam in this den at the Lake of Outrage. Boom! For Rhyperior, a normal red beam in the Dusty Bowl is all we need. Boom! Again. With that done, we're flying back to the hotel in Circhester to fight the local policeman. After defeating him, we get the Oval Charm, which makes eggs appear faster. Ditto and a few lucky Pokemon then go out for a nice dinner, soft music, some wine, a few candles, and later head back home for private training. A few eggs later, and after force feeding a Jangmo a questionable amount of candy, we finally complete the set. Every single Pokemon in Galar. 400 Pokemon, from the wet paper towel to the legendary doggos. We did it, the full Galar Pokédex. It's been a great journey, sure there was some ups and downs, everyone thinking catching 400 Pokemon is easy, but try doing it with no thumbs. Still, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Now only one thing remains. One last trip to Circhester. We talk to the director, receive our certificate, and finally the shiny charm. Mission complete. Thank you all for watching, it's been an incredible journey. Seriously, if you made it all the way here, you're a legend. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing. Jirachi would love that. Also, don't forget to comment how many shiny Mews you spotted. And join me for what's next. Because while I adventure through Galines here, new lands, new Pokemon and new challenges await. In the Isle of Armor and in the Crown Tundra, and somewhere out there, a certain mythical blue pony is still waiting for us. To be continued.